Standard. I've been waffling on for 20 minutes. My battery ran out. I had to swap batteries, and then I got a pop-up to say that my previous clip had not been saved correctly and it's completely corrupted. So now I'm going to have to record that again. So here we go. Hopefully it'll be better the second time around anyway. Hello, welcome back to my channel. You're watching What Helen Reads and I'm Helen, and today I'm talking small town romances or found family romances. So what I wanted to do was bring you some of my favourite small town romance recommendations, and as I was going through some of the ones that I absolutely wanted to share with you, I realised that some of the ones that I wanted to share were more around sort of found family and not strictly small town. And by that I mean some of them actually take place in a small town, while others maybe take place in a slightly larger town, but the feel or the vibe of the book or the series as a whole makes you very feel like you're part of a smaller community. So whether that be found family, extended family, so a lot of these have siblings or relatives where they meet their partners and they're very much brought into the family. But all of these recommendations have one thing in common, and that's ultimately that while each book is about a different character, we very much see characters from the other books coming into the stories. If they've got any issues, they work together as a family to solve them, and I really like that. So here are my recommendations. So the first one I want to talk about is Off to the Races by Elsie Silver, and this is part of the Gold Rush Ranch series. Now Elsie Silver obviously is really well hyped, particularly her Chestnut Springs series, which the last book in that series has just come out. But I really like the first series that she wrote, which is the Gold Rush Ranch. I absolutely devoured these. I read these last year and I read them all back to back, absolutely loved every single one of them. Now in this first book, this is definitely a sort of small town vibe. It's all revolves around a particular horse ranch, and the owner of this ranch is Vaughn. Now he's inherited this business from his grandfather. He really wants to improve things. The kind of like the ranch, if you like, has had a bad name. And he wants to kind of reinvigorate the ranch, and he decides he's going to bring in a new horse trainer called Billy, who he believes at first is a man based on her name. And so when she arrives, they have a bit of a misunderstanding where he's expecting a man, and so when she turns up, he actually thinks that she is a woman that his mother has sent to try and you know, start a relationship with him. And so he doesn't treat her too well to start off with, and so they get off on a bit on the wrong foot. And so this is also kind of touted as a bit of an enemies to lovers romance, but it isn't really. After the first encounter, they it's not long before they kind of move on, and he realizes what a great horse trainer she actually is. And he's got a difficult horse in his stables called Dee Dee. It is potentially a winning horse, but it's got some behavioural issues, and Billy is brought in to try and sort this horse out. And Dee Dee, I have to say, is an amazing character, absolutely steals the show. And if I wasn't allergic to horses and could afford to have a horse and be a horse trainer, then Dee Dee is absolutely the kind of horse that you would want in your stables for sure. So of course this first book is Vaughn and Billy's romance, but what I love about the series as a whole is that all of the books in the series, of which there's 4, absolutely interconnect. All of the characters we come to know and love. They make an appearance in each other's books, and they absolutely work together for the betterment of the ranch where they are. So the first book is, like I say, is owner and trainer, if you like. The second book is about a jockey and one of Vaughn's brothers. Then the third book is about a vet who comes in and obviously looks after the horses, but she also looks after a horse in a kind of a neighbouring ranch, or also a competitor's ranch. And this competitor has been a bit of a sort of a villain, a baddie in previous books. And then the final book is about the villain's daughter and his friend. And so, like I say, by the end of this book, they are all together, working together, know each other, spend time together, and absolutely focused on their ranches, their businesses, their families, and the animals that they come to know and love through this series as well. So I would highly recommend if you haven't read that one already. Then the next one on my list is the Reynolds Restoration series by Melanie Moreland, and the first book in that series is called Revved to the Maxx. And in this one we're following Maxx and Charlie. So Maxx has inherited a restoration business from his father. It's basically a garage, so they service cars and things like that, but they also do classic cars and particularly motorbikes, where they kind of restore old bikes. But Max's business has started to struggle. He's struggling to deal with everything by himself, not only run the business but do all the admin and also look after his house with the cleaning and the cooking and all of that sort of stuff. So a good friend of his convinces him to advertise for a kind of a Man Friday, someone who can be an all-round kind of assistant to him, help him with all aspects of his life, as well as taking care of his home and also doing some of the paperwork for his business. And he ends up recruiting somebody called Charlie. Now, very similar to Off to the Races, Maxx mistakes Charlie for a boy. He thinks he has kind of employed a man, and obviously when Charlie turns up, she is in fact a lady. The thing is, the night before, Charlie's coming to town early. She goes into the bar. She happens to meet Maxx. They are very attracted to each other. One thing leads to another, and they have a one-night stand. And they think then in the morning they decide that they're going to go their separate ways, and they think that is the end of it. Of course, when Charlie reports for duty and she realises Maxx is her employer, and Maxx realises that she is going to be his employee, he absolutely says nothing further can happen. Obviously nothing can happen while you work for me, and so it is interesting to see how they kind of, you know, navigate that while she is helping him with his business and his home, but also they're trying to resist their attraction to each other. So I really enjoyed that. But then the rest of the series is really good as well. What actually ends up happening is absolutely Charlie helps Maxx with his business. In fact, she helps him expand, and he ends up hiring some additional workers. So the second book in the series is about one of the people that work for him restoring motorbikes, and another lady that comes into town. She's actually kind of on the run really from an abusive ex-partner, and she is absolutely prepared to run again. But the hero in that story, as well as Charlie and Maxx, basically convince her to stand her ground and to stay, and that they'll protect her. And then the third book is about another worker and their friend, and then the final one is about an ex-con who was kind of a villain in the first story. He's just come out of prison. He's working at Reynolds Restoration to try and, you know, start a new life, and he kind of gets a roommate and ends up falling in love with his roommate. So again, overall this series is really sweet. It is small town, but like I say, in each of these books you definitely see the other characters. They kind of work together. They're working together in this at Reynolds Restorations, in this environment, and the women that the men kind of bring into the centre become part of the extended family, and that's what I really like about that series too. So the next one I want to mention, I've only actually read the first book in this series, but I've already got a really good feeling about it, and it's one that I read recently for the Monster Mash readathon, and that is Getting It On with Gargoyles by Hazel Mack. And in this one we're following Thea and Shepherd. Now Thea is one of triplets, so she's got two sisters, and they've recently lost their parents. But one of her sisters finds a magical map in an antique shop, buys it, and on the map is this town of Haven, and she becomes obsessed with finding it. So she convinces her two sisters to go on a bit of a road trip with her to find this town of Haven. And when they attempt to find it, they can't find it. They're driving all over, but they can't seem to find out where it is. And in the end, they stop at this gas station, and the owner of the gas station is none other than Shepherd, who is our hero in the first story, and he is also a gargoyle. Now when he sees that these girls have got this map, he realizes that they have been called to this town, and he guides them into the town. And the reason they can't find it is obviously because it's a magical town and it's protected by wards, and so he kind of directs them to the town. He also realizes that Thea, who is the heroine of this one, is his fated mate, and so he's more than eager to not only introduce her to the town, but to convince her to stay there and not leave. Of course, what actually happens when they get into town is that they realise that their presence has maybe disrupted some of the wards, and therefore they have to work with the inhabitants of the town to make sure that the town is secure. Now very, very quickly that they learn that this town is full of paranormal sort of creatures, and we've got sort of, you know, pixies, gargoyles, witches, vampires, orcs, trolls, all kinds of different paranormal creatures that live in this town. And it very much reminded me of you know, the TV show The Town Called Eureka, where that town is kind of filled with geniuses who kind of have ordinary jobs like running the cafe and you know, looking after and being a mechanic or looking after the B&B and that sort of thing. And that's no different in this one. They're all fantastical creatures and they've all got ordinary jobs, doing all the various things in the town that needs to happen in order to keep the town going. And it had such good vibes. I really enjoyed reading this one. I just thought it was a really, really nice upbeat sort of story, and I definitely want to go on to read the others in the series because I think it'll be a nice break between all the dark romances I generally read. And I can really sense already that it's going to be not only just a small town, it's set in a small town, but the community is going to come together as well, because there's definitely some sort of setup to know that something sinister is going on in the background, and we've got an ultimate baddie that we probably need to you know, fight off. And of course, like I say, Thea has got 2 sisters, so each sister gets her own book, so looking forward to reading more about that. And we've also met the Gargoyles' brother, so Shepherd's brother, and he's pretty sweet on a pixie who owns the local sweet shop, so they get their own story too, and so I'm looking forward to carrying on with that series. Definitely a great small town romance for sure. Then the next book that I wanted to mention was Out of My League by Jessica Prince, and this is book 1 in the Hope Valley series, of which there are actually 12 books. So this one, if you like this one, there's a lot for you to go at. You can pretty much binge all of these, and this is sort of set in a small town, but it's kind of one of those sort of romances. They're all kind of romantic suspense. The main characters for the most part throughout this story are kind of ex-military. They work at a local security firm who kind of like undertake different kinds of like private investigation, maybe do some security, set up security like cameras and alarm systems in people's homes. They also bodyguard for people on occasion, and things like that. In this first one we're following Lincoln. He's kind of in charge of the security team. And it's kind of him setting the business up really. He's ex-military, he's recently left the military, and he wants a quiet life, but he's kind of set himself up in this security firm. And then we meet Eden, who is a young woman who moves in just a couple of doors down from him in the street. So they see each other a lot. They're sort of neighbours in fairly close proximity, and she definitely has the hots for him. Lincoln is very attractive, but Lincoln hasn't really even noticed her, doesn't pay her very much attention at first. But then when Eden gets into trouble and she goes to Lincoln for help, they get closer together, and you know, something from Eden's past comes into town, and obviously Lincoln has to be the hero that saves the day and saves Eden, and kind of that's where the story starts. And like I say, each book from there is a different hero who joins a security firm, obviously falling in love with a woman who ultimately gets herself in danger, and they kind of need to be rescued. And that's kind of like the vibe of the whole series. But I really, really like it. I really like Jessica Prince's writing style. It's a nice balance between, you know, romantic suspense. She usually has a little bit of spice in there. You know, it's not over the top, it's not every chapter, but there's enough in there that if you like spice in your books, then you won't be disappointed. And yeah, just really like this one. And it's also an interconnected series with some of our others as well. And you do see some characters in Civil Corruption, which is the sort of like the Rockstar romance series that she's got as well. So I like that fact that it sort of is a slight crossover. It kind of exists in the same universe, if you like. Then the next one that I wanted to mention is the Rollin series by Emilia Finn, and the first book in that series is Finding Home. It's actually a duet, this one, so there's it in 2 parts, and we're focused very much on Bobby Kincaid, who is the eldest brother in the Kincaid family. He's also a world champion MMA fighter, and he owns his own gym with his brothers called the Rollin Gym. And then the heroine in this one is Kit Riley, who very much comes into this family. So this series, again, there's 6 books, but like I said, the first one is a duet. It very much focuses on the Kincaid family. and so it's already got that family vibe. It's a slightly larger town. I wouldn't say it's a small town necessarily, but it all revolves around the Rollin on gym. So again, it is a very small town sort of feel because it's very focused on this family in this gym and the people that come to this gym. Again, it's a bit romantic suspensey. Each of the men in this series are, you know, MMA fighters in some way, either champions or training to be champions, and each of the women need rescuing at some point or other. It's really about the men absolutely loving their women, being absolutely possessive and protective of their women, and will do anything to make sure that they are safe. And this first book is great because Kit ends up going to Bobby's gym. She wants to be trained. She wants to train to you know, improve her fitness, but also learn how to kind of fight. Bobby takes a definite shine to her and offers to train her personally, which is pretty unheard of since he is the world champion, but he's interested in her enough that he's absolutely prepared to spend his time doing that, and their romance goes from there. Kit's got a younger brother who absolutely needs a kind of like a father figure, a mentor, someone to look up to, like I say, although we have got Bobby's brothers in here, there are also kind of some extended family where we have kind of a best friend, John, who's not technically a Kincaid, but he's been brought up with the brothers as if he is their brother, and his sister, and so it's very much sort of like found family, a family without actually having any blood ties, but they are absolutely all extremely tight, and, you know, will do anything for each other. And again, Emilia Finn has done a great job here of creating this world where this Rollin on gym lives, and the town where the gym is, and there's quite a few spin-off series from this, and the next one is a Survivor series which focuses more on the police force and the police officers in this town. It goes on to the Checkmate series, which the first book in that series is one of my favourite books of all time, and then she's got a next gen series with all of the kids, and so if you like this world, there's loads for you to go at. It's a huge world, loads and loads of characters, and again we see a lot of crossover. We see a lot of the couples from the other stories and everything coming together in these stories, which I really like. It's really nice, isn't it, when you read a book like that and you feel like you know them and you're friends. So then the next one is set in New Orleans, so it's not exactly small town, but again it's got a small town vibe because it's all focused on family. And of course I'm talking about Wolf Gone Wild, or more specifically the Stay a Spell series by Juliette Cross, of which again there's 6 in this series. And so each book is focused on one of the Savoy sisters, and the Savoy sisters are witches in New Orleans, and they happen to basically Jules, the eldest sister, happens to be the highest ranking supernatural creature in the New Orleans area and very much in charge. It's about their story, not only as sisters and a family, how they meet their significant others, but also how they kind of bring the paranormal community together by forging new alliances with werewolves, vampires and Grimms as well. So absolutely fantastic, absolutely love this one. So in Wolf Gone Wild, which I'm currently listening to the audiobook for, so I read Wolf Gone Wild 2 years ago, absolutely loved it. I finished the whole series now. I think the last book in the series came out earlier this year, which was Grim and Bear It, and I really enjoyed the whole series overall. And I've just started the audiobooks, and I have to say Aidan Snow is the male narrator who does the voice for Matteo, who is the hero in this one. He's a werewolf and he's got an inner wolf called Alpha, and Aidan Snow's voice that he does for Alpha is absolutely spot on, absolutely fantastic, delicious is what I would say. So would highly recommend the audiobook, although I'm still just halfway through it, but I'm loving it. So like I say, the main hero in this one is Matteo. He's a werewolf. He's got a curse placed upon him though, so for some reason we don't understand why, but he cannot unleash his inner beast at the full moon or during the month. He cannot turn into a werewolf, and this is making him very anxious, very frustrated, and he's getting more and more aggressive because the inner wolf is desperately wanting to get out, and started to talk to him. And his inner wolf is called Alpha, and Alpha is absolutely hilarious because he is absolutely Farrell, he is a beast, and he says basically whatever he thinks, and you can imagine that he's not only very aggressive, he seems to want to pretty much punch everyone in the face, but he also loves the heroine in this one, Evie, and wants to do all kinds of delicious things to her. So he's driving Matteo crazy because Matteo is very much trying to keep him in his box because he doesn't want to scare Evie away. Of course, Evie is not going to be scared by Alpha. In fact, she might actually enjoy Alpha just as much as she enjoys Matteo. But the reason Evie is the heroine in this one is because she happens to be a hex breaker. It's a particular witch skill that she has, and so Matteo has gone to Evie to help him break his curse, and so the book is about her trying to figure out how to break the hex that's been placed on him and restore his inner wolf, essentially. I absolutely love this one. It's really fun read, and like I say, I put it in here because although it's set in New Orleans, which obviously is a city and not a small town, I think it's definitely a small town vibe because we have this really sense of family. We see lots of the other characters in this one, you know, all of the relationships develop throughout the whole series, and ultimately they work together as one team, as one family, to come together. And there's some really nice family scenes in here, everyday family scenes of them, you know, eating food together and going out together and just having a great time. So would highly recommend. Then the next series I absolutely love is Fight Club by Becca Jameson, and the first one in this series is Come, and in this one we're following Katie and Rafe. Now this series again is, for me, has a small town vibe because it's again 6 books. Each of the men in this book are really good friends, and they all train at a local gym, and so they are amateur MMA fighters, so another MMA fighting romance here, but also they all have membership at a local sex club, and all of the men in this series are DOMs and they're looking for their subs. But it is really good sense of friendship and a family. And when Rafe first meets Katie, he meets her because she is the niece of the man who owns the gym where he trains, and she's gone there to speak to her uncle one day. She's got a bit of a stalker, and so she's kind of worried about that, so she goes to her uncle to sort that out. And as she's leaving the gym, Rafe happens to be standing against the wall, and she notices the guy who's stalking her is on the other side of the car park, and so she kind of uses Rafe in this moment to try and see if she can deter the stalker, and she kind of turns to him and sort of just kisses him basically. Now Rafe is all up for this, he's loving life, loving this, but he quickly realises why she's done it and becomes very sort of protective of her, and he asked her out on a date as well. He wants to go out on a date with her, but he has a rule. He doesn't normally date women until they know about his sexual preferences and what he likes to do in the bedroom, because he doesn't feel that's fair. And so Katie is absolutely chomping at the bit to be with him, to go on more dates with him, but he sort of says, I can't go any further in this relationship until I tell you the truth about myself. And so in one night she gets a double whammy. He takes her to a fight, and then he takes her to the sex club afterwards as well, and he gives her the opportunity to ask questions, find out more. She's very inquisitive about what it all means, and she takes some time to think about her options and what she wants. And the good news is that Katie decides that she wants to go for it with Rafe. She's completely new to the lifestyle, so doesn't know anything about it, but does her research. Rafe is an excellent sort of like trainer and teacher. He's very gentle with her, takes it very slow with her, explains all the rules and that sort of thing. And that's why I kind of like this series. From a BDSM perspective, I think it's really good in terms of how the relationship develops, how he explains things to her, giving her space to find out for herself, finding out what she likes and doesn't like, and them coming to a mutual agreement about how they want to take their relationship forward. But the rest of the series is fantastic too as well. Like I say, each of the men in the series are really good friends. They all fight together, they all hang out at the sex club together. And as they bring their women on board, they become one big family together, and the women really get on, and you know, it's great to have them sort of have a community where they can talk about what they're experiencing as well, away from the men, and you know, ask each other for advice and all of that good stuff. So I really like this whole series, and so I'll definitely recommend giving it a go if you are intrigued by what I've just shared. And then the last series that I wanted to talk about was the Alpha Compound series by Anna Fury. And the first book in this series is called The Alpha Awakens, and there's 5 books in this series. Now this is an Omegaverse romance series, but don't let that put you off if you're not a fan of Omegaverse. Yes, there are Omega, you know, Alpha, Omega, Beta elements to this. We do have fated mates. There is knotting. There is a lot of body fluids going on, but I think it's a slightly different take on some of the other Omegaverse that you might read, and I absolutely love these characters, love this world that Anna Fury has built, and there's also a spin-off series to it as well, which is called Northern Rejects, which is also really good, and she's not finished writing that yet, but you know, it's we were a couple of books into that one. So in the first book in this one, we're following Mallory and Orion, and essentially what's happening in this world is that there's been some sort of virus. These men have contracted a virus, and if they're susceptible, they're turned into alphas. And in the initial stages where they're transitioning from being a human to an alpha, they go into this wilding phase and they become quite aggressive, very violent, and obviously they get extra size and strength and speed, and so that actually makes them quite dangerous as well. Now because of this, everybody else is absolutely afraid of them, and the military have obviously started to round them up, take them away somewhere, maybe do experiments on them. But there's some alphas that manage to kind of escape before they're captured, and they kind of live in the middle of nowhere, out in the wilds, basically either by themselves just trying to make ends meet and survive, or they've gathered together into smaller communities to kind of work together to try and you know, carry on with their existence. And so this is where Orion finds himself. He was a doctor before he transitioned into an alpha. He managed to sort of get away, and he's found himself in the compound with other alphas, and the compound is kind of looked after by the alpha of alphas in this particular pack, because there's always has to be a head alpha, right, called Mitch, and he has created this very safe environment for everyone. In his former life he was a billionaire, so he's got a very big house, he's got a lot of resources, and he's been able to create this very safe community where alphas can come and be themselves, and you know, they take in new alphas when they need to. Still, it's been a couple of years now, things have started to settle down, but you know, the humans that are kind of left that haven't transitioned are still very scared of what's going on. And this is where we meet Mallory, because Mallory is a journalist, and through a series of incidents that occur in just the first couple of chapters, Orion ends up meeting Mallory, realises that she is a journalist, and Mitch asks Orion to bring her back to the compound so that she can see for herself how they're living. She can see that they're not dangerous, that they're just ordinary people that have just happened to you know, transition into these alphas, and would she write some stories about them, circulate them in the press, try and get some sympathy for them out in the general public, and hopefully get the alphas more rights so that they can reintegrate back into society and that people aren't so scared of them. And so this is what this first book is about, and Orion brings Mallory back to the compound. Mallory finds out all of this stuff, and while she's there, obviously she gets to know Orion better, and they start their relationship. There's loads more stuff that goes on. It's a great mystery in terms of, where did the virus come from? Did anyone start it off? Where are these alphas? Where have these alphas gone that the military have captured? You know, what else is going on behind the scenes, and a bit of political intrigue going on there as well. And so I really love not only the first book but the whole series and the spin-off as well. And like I say, for me it feels very much like a small town, because they're in this enclosed community that they've built themselves, that they're living in this compound, that they're all working together as one team. And Mitch has created a very kind of close-knit community where all the alphas are looking out for themselves. And of course, as we go through the series, more women come to the compound, alphas start to get mated up with these women, and these women therefore form part of the larger family and have their own community as that they discover that they are omegas, and what that means for them and how they're going to work together. So there you have it. They are all my recommendations for small town / found family vibes of books. I hope you found that useful. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content from me. And as always, I'd love to hear your comments. If you've got any small town romances that you absolutely love, please share those with us. If you've read any of these, let me know what you think of them. I just want to say thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. They discover that they are amigas. Particular type of witchy because he doesn't want to scare them, but he's very much trying to keep Evie what happens? What happens? No, it's a small town paranormal romance. Now Now Maxx, as in for God's sake. Right. And in this one we're following Maxx and Charlie. This is part of the Gold Rush Ranch series. And not necessarily, hello and welcome back. Thank you for watching. So, no, second time around was not any better, was it?